I mean, he's sitting there, it's tight. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's nothing. I mean, I had a 66 set, but that was the year ago. They went through the 4-wheel disc brakes. We're good. I mean, that was high end compared to that.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mount Olive Township Workshop and Council Meeting for September 18, 2018. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for those who made the ultimate sacrifice protecting and serving us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Michelle, would you read the Open Public Meetings Act, please?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Here.
Mr. Ferrante.
Here.
Mrs. Labow.
Here.
Mr. Bania.
Here.
Mr. Storr.
Here.
Mr. Roman.
Here.
Mr. Nicastro.
Here. First, we'd like to recognize that today is a major holiday, and for all our residents celebrating the holiday, we wish them an easy fast. We had to conduct the meeting this evening because we had certain business to conduct and could not cancel the meeting. But we wish them all happy and easy fast during their holiday. First item up is a very well-deserved awards. Chief.
Thank you, Council President. For those that don't know me, I'm Steve Beecher, and I'm the Chief of Police here in Mount Olive Township. And tonight, we're here to recognize those individuals that responded to the bus crash on Route 80 back on May 17th. As most of you know, on that date, a school bus crashed with a tandem dump truck on Route 80 west in our township. Tragically, 2 lives were lost that day. Teacher Jennifer Williamson and 10-year-old student Miranda Faith Vargas. In addition, numerous children suffered serious injury. Though the incident was terribly tragic, it was through the efforts of many that there was not more loss of life. My purpose this evening is not to recognize everyone who contributed to that best possible outcome, but to bring to your attention the actions and efforts of those people you employ or have volunteering in town. At approximately 10:20 the morning of Friday, May 17th, the Mount Olive Communications Center began receiving multiple phone calls through the 911 system and the front desk. Dispatcher Lorena Papa was working alone at the dispatch center. The sound and number of so many phone calls coming into the communications center was so unusual that dispatcher clerks Carissa Savinsky and Emily Lohman left their office to come up to assist dispatcher Papa. They were quickly joined by Sergeant Eric Anthony. Together they worked as a team to coordinate police, fire, emergency medical services, MERS, and citizen and press inquiries. To give you an idea of the tremendous task at hand that morning, there were 24 police, fire, and EMS units from Mount Olive that responded. This number does not include the multiple civilians, neighboring jurisdictions, and county and state resources that responded to the scene. Altogether, the Communications Center coordinated close to 50 units over 5 different radio channels. Their teamwork and professional demeanor helped to stabilize a chaotic situation so services could be delivered in the most efficient and timely manner. While the Communications Center was exploding with activity, Mount Olive officers were the first to arrive on scene. Navigating heavy traffic as a result of the crash, officers arrived to find a large school bus broken apart. The passenger compartment had become separated from the frame of the bus. The frame lay sideways across 2 of the 3 westbound lanes nearest the center median. The body of the bus lay in the center of the median. Officers Elbaum, Gardner, Malooly, and Detective Corporal Kraus were the first on scene. What they saw, they likened to a battlefield. Approximately 38 children and several adults were strewn about the center median, all in distress and in various states of injury and emotional trauma. In short order, other officers arrived. Sergeant Mark Carlstrom, Corporal Marianne Wurtenberg, Sergeant Paul Ottavigna, and Lieutenant Philip Lucevero. They immediately set to work. These officers triaged and treated victims and carried children to waiting ambulances. Our first responder partners began arriving. Our officers then transitioned to facilitating communications and transportation of victims and clearing hundreds of vehicles off of Route 80. When the Morris County Prosecutor's Office and the New Jersey State Police arrived on scene, Mount Olive Police briefed them on what had thus far occurred and been observed. Triage and treatment and transport continued. Once all of the victims were transported, the scene remained closed for multiple hours for follow-up investigation. This event was extraordinary because of the number of victims on a busy interstate highway and the resources that had to be brought to bear on this tragic event to save lives. To give you an idea of the amount of resources this town was able to bring to the scene, 53 people are being recognized tonight for responding to that scene. So 53 people were at that scene probably within less than a half hour. And that obviously meant a lot to the victims of that crash that day. It is my privilege to award the following officers and first responders awards in recognition. I ask that you hold your applause until the citation bars are presented. For performing a highly unusual accomplishment under adverse conditions where death or injury to a third party is prevented, receiving meritorious service tonight are Corporal Marianne Wurtenberg. Stand right in front. Detective Corporal Eric Kraus. Officer Anthony Gardner. Officer Lonnie Elbaum. And Officer Tyler Malooly. For performing a highly credible accomplishment, bringing acclaim to the police department as a result of devotion to duty and service, receiving the Exceptional Duty Award tonight are Lieutenant Philip Lucevero. Sergeant Mark Carlstrom. Sergeant Paul Ottavigna could not be here tonight, but he would have received that award as well. For individual participation by a police or communications officer in an operation whose efforts led to a cited action, receiving the Grand Cordon tonight are Sergeant Eric Anthony. Dispatcher Loretta Papa. Dispatcher Clerk Carissa Savinsky. Dispatcher Clerk Emily Lohman. Good, Costa? Good. Awesome. You guys are ready. For rendering services to the community in a tragic mass casualty event that resulted in a best possible outcome that reflected highly on the community of fire, first aid, and emergency medical personnel, and the Township of Mount Olive, the following are awarded the Police Chief's First Responder Civilian Service Citation Award. Bud Lake Fire Chief Michael Dorlin. Bud Lake Second Assistant Fire Chief Joe Campano. Bud Lake First Assistant Chief Kevin Maloney. Bud Lake Fire First Lieutenant Nick Burnaby. Bud Lake Fire Second Lieutenant Keel Claver. Bud Lake Firefighter Pete Brin. Bud Lake Firefighter James Buckley. Bud Lake Firefighter Steve Steinert. Bud Lake Firefighter Ryan Wood. Bud Lake Firefighter Robert Sheard. Bud Lake Firefighter Walter Lotta. Bud Lake Firefighter John Ligori. Bud Lake Firefighter Robert Grignon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bud Lake Fire Department. From Flanders Fire and Emergency Medical Services, EMS Captain Myra Garcia. Fire Captain Sean Foote. Fire Lieutenant Philip Brown. Fire Lieutenant Mike DeFelice. Firefighter EMT Sean Dolan. Firefighter EMT Bruce Gallagher. Firefighter EMT Nick Erhin. Firefighter Mikhail Germain. Firefighter Matthew Jazicki. Firefighter Eric Johansson. Firefighter Justin McNally. EMT Stephanie Smith. Firefighter Alec Stazak. Firefighter Greg Woodsmuck. Firefighter Erica DePack. Ladies and gentlemen, Flanders Fire and EMS. From the Bud Lake Emergency Medical Services, Zachary Butchick. Mark Dombrowski. Rachel Semeka. Laura Korick. William Engel. Matthew Turry. Ladies and gentlemen, Bud Lake Emergency Medical Service. From the Office of the Fire Marshal, Fire Marshal Fred DeToro. Fire Marshal Mark Mucione. Fire Marshal Colin Baker. Fire Marshal Alan Bell. Fire Marshal Kyle Toth. Ladies and gentlemen, the Office of the Fire Marshal. Last but not least to be recognized is Atlantic Ambulance. Atlantic Ambulance is a service that our township contracts with because over the years we've found that it's been difficult to get volunteers, especially during the days. It's just been a problem that you've seen across the board throughout the state. And our paid partners often go unrecognized, but what happens is they get a particular area and this kind of becomes their hometown too. So in recognizing Atlantic Ambulance tonight, I'd like to recognize the following 4 individuals that were there that night in the initial stages and experienced all the difficulties that all the first responders had that day. For Atlantic Ambulance EMS 2, Anthony Levesque. Michael Murray. Megan Rouse, EMS 3. And Michael Berghart. Ladies and gentlemen, Atlantic Ambulance. No, we've, over the years, especially since September 11th, when we experienced a really devastating incident that required a lot of multiple agencies to work in coordination, we've talked about interoperability and teamwork and working with other agencies. And May 17th was remarkable in that I don't think we could have had a better outcome than we had that day. Like I said, tragically, we lost 2 lives, but the accident was so horrific with a fully loaded tandem dump and a fully loaded bus that it's fortunate that we didn't have more serious injuries and deaths. And the people that you see in this room here tonight are the persons that directly had an impact on that outcome. So well done by all. Thank you.
And if I may, I would like to say on behalf of the mayor and the council I could speak for, we are very honored and proud of you all, and we thank you all for your dedication, your selflessness, and it makes Mount Olive a great community to have people like you that we know that will take care of us and everyone, and we just really appreciate all that you do for us, and most people don't see it all because it's always behind the scenes a lot. But as on council, we see a lot of the calls that come in, a lot of things that go on, and it's amazing the work that you all do, and we really appreciate it, and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Now, before we move on to our meeting, if everyone's going to like to stay, or if you're planning on leaving, because I don't know who's interested for the rest of the meeting, but we'll give you a 5-minute recess for everybody. Unless you really want to stay, you're welcome to.
A big exodus.
Someone dropped their phone right there.
Happy birthday, Myra.
Nobody stays for resolution.
Nobody wants to stay.
Nice job. Thank you.
Great job, you guys.
Take care, bud.
Great job.
Adult type of week.
It was nice, very nice.
Donnie. Don. How are you? Good. Our resident mountain man.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you. You look wonderful.
Hey, look good.
Wonderful, wonderful.
It works.
It works, don't it?
Perfect. You're fine tuning it.
Hi, good to see you.
You too.
He looks awesome.
Huh?
He looks awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing how the crowd left.
Yeah, nobody wanted to stick around.
No, Joe.
We could be Rockaway County.
Yeah.
Did you tell them we're going to have dancing girls later?
Joe can't say stuff like that.
God, he'll be on a carpet again.
That has endorsed Nikki Sherrill, the Democrat.
She's like, yeah.
That's the same town where the mayor passed away.
I'm assuming she had some form of adventure. Are you big going on?
They won't talk to each other.
You got like 3 or 4 is one back and then the
Could you imagine? Seriously.
Mr. Sheard, how are you?
Maybe the way he's standing.
Good to see you.
That's the way he's standing.
Hey, it's better to see the top of the grass than the roots.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still looking up.
Hey, you look terrific. Good, you're looking terrific.
There he is.
Nice job, Chief.
I didn't get a chance on that. But maybe I'll stop.
Never too old. See you later. All right.
I'll go tomorrow. I'll go tomorrow.
He just said to me, because I found my own shirt.
All right, now to the exciting part.
All right, so now that we're back, everyone's out, okay. Next item on the agenda is Diaper Need Awareness Week. We have a proclamation from the mayor, and it reads, whereas diaper need, the condition of not having a sufficient supply of clean diapers to ensure that infants and toddlers are clean, healthy, and dry, can adversely affect the health and welfare of infants, toddlers, and their families. And whereas national surveys report that 1 in 3 mothers experiencing diaper needs at some time while their children are less than 3 years of age, and 48% of families delay changing a diaper to extend their supply. And whereas the average infant and toddler require an average of at least 50 diaper changes per week over 3 years. Whereas there are no government assistance program for the purchase or provision of diapers, and a monthly supply of diapers can cost as much as 6% of a full-time minimum wage worker's salary. Therefore, obtaining a sufficient supply of diapers can cause economic hardship to families. And whereas a supply of diapers is generally an eligibility requirement for infant and toddlers to participate in child care programs and qualify early adult programs, and whereas the people of Mount Olive recognize that addressing diaper need can lead to economic opportunity for states' low-income families and can lead to improved health for families in their communities. And whereas Mount Olive is proud to be home of two people and community organizations that recognize the importance of diapers in helping provide economic stability for families and distribute diapers to poor families through various channels. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Robert Greenbaum, Mayor of Mount Olive Township, do hereby proclaim this week of September 24th through September 30th, 2018 as Diaper Awareness Week in the Township of Mount Olive, and encourage the citizens of Mount Olive to generously support diaper banks, diaper drives, and those organizations that distribute diapers to families in need to help alleviate diaper need.
Joe?
Yes, Colleen?
I just want to bring up one point with this diaper awareness. We should really be including the elderly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know when I worked at CVS, I worked on the night shift, and a lot of the elderly would come in the middle of the night because they were embarrassed to be buying them, but then we would get chatting and they would say how they're very, very expensive.
I use Amazon.
Yeah. So just to add a little bit on here, it's the elderly also need the
Yes,
diapers.
it is. First
No.
thought, we
We're
all thought that.
few of us up here are getting
Especially
to
as
that
we're all
age.
getting older, we know.
We know, so that would be just one food for thought, and keep that in mind.
Joe, if I may.
Thank you.
The Knights of Columbus also, we have a diaper drive every year.
Okay,
Oh,
that's good.
nice.
Very good. Thank you. Andrew, discussion on bond rating?
Thank you, Council President. This is more informational than it is for discussion. I know Sherry emailed the council last week when we got the rating and today when we had the bond sale. But in summary, on Thursday, September 6th, the Finance Department, along with the auditor, had the bond rating call with S&P, and we were able to affirm our AA rating on the outstanding debt and also obtain the same AA plus rating on the new bonds that were issued. And I've outlined some of the points that gave us this strong rating. One being a very strong management and financial policies and practices. We have a balanced operating budget. We have fund balance, which is 26% of our operating expenditures in 2016, and just an overall strong financial institutional network here in Mount Olive. And that all came together today with the bond sale. We were able to achieve a low bid of a 2.69 interest rate through Morgan Stanley, and they'll be giving us a premium of almost $500,000, which we'll be putting into our surplus. I wanted to give kudos to the Finance Department, to Sherry, for all the work that she put into gathering all that information. Because that really does help sell the municipality or the township and give us that bond rating.
Very nice,
Yeah,
great
thank
job.
you, Sherry.
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thank you, Sherry. Andrew?
Excellent.
Happy day for us, $500,000 like
Yeah.
that.
There you go.
Yes.
Very nice.
That's really nice.
Thank you.
Way to go.
We have 12 resolutions. Does anyone have any resolutions they'd like to discuss here? Yes, Andy.
I just want to point out several resolutions. Number 3, we're moving forward with the Old Flanders sewer project, so that's just authorizing me to sign off on the TWA application. And then several weeks ago, Councilman Mania brought to our attention the invasive species in the Turkey Brook Basin, so we are taking care of that in the next couple of weeks. Our consultant is coming in with a harvester and breaking out some of the vegetative growth that's in there, so that's being taken care of.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr.
Very
Manning.
nice.
Anyone else, anything? Seeing none, we have 2 ordinances for first reading and 1 for second reading. Do we have anything on those? Anyone questions? Seeing none, any old business? Seeing none, any new business? Mr. Roman?
I'd like to bring up for discussion the baseball fields. I think in the past we have, baseball had wanted to turf the fields, and I think it's time that we move forward. Unfortunately, when Turkey Brook was installed, those fields were wonderful, but they just have not been draining throughout the years. I know in the past we have done some kind of remediation work to try to improve the drainage, but it to no avail. You get any decent rain and you're talking, that's it. It can't play. I think, John, you're probably aware of that.
Yep.
So I asked Mr. Mancini if he could address the council and expound a little bit further on the need for such a project.
Hello, thank you for your time.
Just name and address again, Mike. Sorry.
Michael Mancini, I'm the president of Mount Island Baseball
Thank
Softball
you.
Association. Thank you for your time. I know many of you. We have such a great park at Turkey Brook, and it's a shame that many of the young boys and girls can't play on it. We've had major drainage issues from day one with that park, and I know we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, I can imagine, over the years trying to fix it. And this year, it just got worse. Last year, it progressed bad, and this year was just worse. You know, we're such a small seasonal sport, meaning time-wise, not group numbers. But when you can only play between April and June twice a week, and you lose half your season, it's tough to explain to parents what's going on. The situation is we don't have fields to play on. There are other fields that are being used in town in those necessities. You know, Dan Jordan is one of the best training fields there are, and we make adjustments as much as we can on a scramble. But these situations are not day of rains. It may have rained Wednesday, and by Saturday, Turkey Brook's still unplayable. And that has nothing to do with the personnel that's up there. This year, with new personnel, I know there's a change in the guard, has been the greatest year of being dealt with one-on-one. Tim, Quinn, and Ed Latta, and all those gentlemen have been fantastic. But they're behind the 8 ball as well. They're working enormous amount of hours and time where they could be spent elsewhere trying to get fields ready to play half a season. I'm trying to get a full season. We're losing games, we're losing participants, and more importantly, we're losing Saturdays. Saturdays are important for us because that's a full day. And if it rains on a Wednesday night or Thursday, we can't play on those fields. And that's, you know, it's Mother Nature can't help. But even in this township where there are other turf fields, it may rain in the morning. By nighttime, those fields are being played on. You know, we're very appreciative that we've had lights installed on 2 of the 3 lower bowl fields. But if you actually look at the light log, they're hardly on because the games are not being played. So I'm asking, I see so many improvements in this township, and we see them even at Turkey Brook every day. That's our pride. We know that. That's our joy, that's our gem. We want that gem to be also for the baseball and softball kids so that they can play in the spring and in the summer as well in the fall. 3 different seasons.
And Mike, I'm assuming that what you're asking from us is the same thing that we've done for other sports organizations where we bond for the project and then the association pays the bill.
We will pay the bill.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not the whole field. We want to keep the integrity of the park as well. We're talking about 3 infields. Of the 4 fields, is the lower 3. We would keep field 4 as is because, believe it or not, that does drain because it is elevated a little bit by the dog park. So it's just the 3 infields of Turkey Brook 1 and 2 and 3. And what that gains us is every age in our program from 4 years old to 12 years old can access those fields with turf. Because there are certain levels that demand bigger fields, meaning the 11, 12-year-old majors division is a 50, 70 bigger diamond. So that has to play only at Turkey Brook. That's the only field we have is Turkey Brook. Since we lost Bud Lake School 2 years ago, there is no alternative for a majors division, none whatsoever, besides Turkey Brook 2 and 3. And those are the ones that are being damaged the most. Not being damaged, but not playable because of the conditions that are there.
Andrew, is it my understanding also that if we were to go in this direction, that we would actually save money because we don't have to now have employees to constantly be up there maintaining the fields and then infield mix and any other materials?
With any turf field, there are savings due to maintenance, but then there are also additional costs with maintaining the turf and eventual replacement. So it's, there are pros and cons to each.
Okay. And is it the administration's position that you're going to move in that direction, or are you?
Well,
the mayor you discussed it with the mayor yet?
We have not discussed it yet for this year. It did come up in last year's capital budget request. It was not funded in this year. Every year we do reach out to the sports associations for their capital budget needs, so we'll be doing that shortly, and we'll have that discussion during budget deliberations.
Well, I for one would definitely like to see us move forward with this project. I don't know how the rest of the council
If we
feels.
could do it similar to what we've done, obviously, if they're paying the
Yep.
bill, it's the same type of thing we've done with the other organizations. Mr. Maney and then Mrs. Maybell.
Andrew, would we have to go out to bid for that?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think Mr. Mancini sent a memo today, and I went back in last year's budget request. It was about a $650,000 budget request for, I believe it was turfing the infields.
Of all three fields.
All three.
Right, all three.
So, whether you do that or do you just do some type of long-term solution to fix the drainage, if that's a possibility that we could look into. and
Yeah,
keeping-
unfortunately, Andrew, I've been here a little bit longer than you, and we've been talking about drainage since like year
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, we've, this council appropriated funds to put in piping and just never, it's just the way the nature of the soil is up there.
Ms. Maybell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out, and I could be wrong, but my thoughts are that if you have an emergency situation where our staff has to run out and try to dry out the fields or put tarps over to try and protect them, that's a lot different than your scheduled maintenance for a turf field, because you're not going to have to be doing that. So it's more of a scheduled kind of maintenance. So even though it is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, it does afford the staff more time to get to the things that we need to do instead of an emergency rush kind of deal. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, there have been times, like I said, with this new regime, the contact between us and myself and Tim and Ed has been tremendous, but they have got guys pulled off of jobs to remove tarps
Exactly.
that don't even work, truly. They remove the tarps and the field's just as wet. The tarps have been eaten alive. They're very costly. A lot of holes. One hole in a tarp, all the water will funnel.
Yep.
And it's a good 2-3 hour process just to remove the tarps. And you need multiple people. It's not a 2-person job. It's a 10 to 15 person job. And I'm thankful that we've had the help this year, because if not, we would not have any season. We had half a season. And it's just, I've been in this association 27 years because I care about the association, I care about the program, I care about the kids, and now they're getting penalized, and that's just not right. We can only do so much.
I can't imagine the program without you. It's like,
You'll
Mr.
see someday.
Mancini.
Next year's our 50th anniversary, so I want to do something for
Andrew,
it.
this would be on the discussion for the,
So yeah, the first or second week in November, we have
Yeah.
our budget meetings.
and I believe most
We'll
council
discuss
seems to be in
that.
the direction of supporting it if you pass that
Absolutely.
along.
Right. And then when
Absolutely.
we bring it to the full council's attention, it will be listed whether
Right.
it's recommended to be approved or not, but that'll come up again for your consideration.
Do we know if it would be budgeted in for next year? Is there enough time to have a turf field ready for the spring?
Probably not.
Close.
Close.
I would push as much as we could with the right efforts to have for the
Capital
spring.
funds are available in February, March.
I mean, when we've had to push capital projects before, we can do a temporary capital budget, and I can put money in the temporary budget for a down payment so that we can do an ordinance, so we have done it before. Because our normal time frame is usually, like to do the ordinance, usually March, April, May.
And then the weather plays a
And
big
the weather, I was
part.
going to say, the weather's a
weather,
factor.
yeah.
Nobody knows yet. But the
Right.
bottom line is to get it approved, then we can deal with the
Yeah, I understand that. And I would,
circumstances at that
obviously,
point.
you know, a wish and a dream is for
Right.
2019.
Right.
And luckily, next year, with the school break, because that's what we base our season on, we're not starting in the middle of April. We're starting a little bit later, actually, because of that. So those extra weeks may help, believe it or not.
Yep, well, we will bring that up, and I know most council here seems to be in favor of it, so we'll
Yep,
see when we get to that
absolutely.
point.
Thank you very much.
So with that being said, is it my understanding that if we do not approve the temporary capital budget, that it may not happen? Because I'd be inclined with approving the temporary capital budget for this project to make sure that it increases the possibility of there being a 2019 season.
So there's a two-step process. The temporary capital budget is just, it's not a funding mechanism, it's just a resolution we have to do, Alex, to basically notify the division that we're gonna do a capital ordinance. You need it for the capital ordinance. The funding mechanism is actually a temporary budget resolution that I would do to put money into capital improvement fund, which provides for the down payment. So that's how it works.
I mean, I'd be inclined in moving in that direction. I don't know how the
That's
rest
for
of the council.
19, though, that's how it would work.
Yeah, so when would the
Like,
mon- that's what I was
if
gonna
we-
say.
If
So
we were
what's-
gonna do it this year, I would have to, like, we don't have enough money left in down payment for a $650,000 project. So I would have to transfer money in as of November to give us the down payment money to be able to do an ordinance this year. You following me?
Yep.
And it still wouldn't get
Okay.
done till close to the end of the year,
Well, so you're looking at, Michelle, it's usually a month, right? We can introduce one meeting and then adopt
Yeah.
the next, so you're basically looking at a month.
yeah, so by the end of the year, December or something.
Yeah,
it
so
would
we could,
be-
I mean, we could go that route if it's a project that you have to do. Normally, we don't do that. Normally, we'll push it like the beginning of
Right.
19. But, you know, obviously, if there's a timing issue, we can do
Right,
it
and we
this
need
year
to
if we
speak to
had
the contractors, a bid's gotta go out, you
Yep.
gotta find out all that information anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know where that 650 number came from, but I was told by a contractor who just looked at the facility and done some stuff up there, that it was probably about 125 to 150 per field,
Yeah.
which is
So
a
we gotta
couple
go out
$100,000
for bids
less.
first
We need
anyway.
engineering specs.
Right, you got a lot of
designs.
work to do prior,
Yep,
so who knows?
absolutely.
The bottom line is if we can get it
So-
through, if we're in favor, that's really the key. If we get it done, maybe one field will be done in time, who knows? But I think we're all in favor of pushing forward with it and see what we can do.
Yeah, I would do whatever we can to
Help you out with that too,
increase
for help
the
out the kids.
Yep. Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
time.
Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Roman, for bringing that up. Public, any more new business? Anyone from the public wish to be heard at this time? Seeing none, close to the public. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I open up the Mount Olive Township Council meeting for September 18, 2018. Michelle, read the Open Public Meetings Act, please.
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Here.
Mr. Ferrante.
Here.
Mrs. Labow.
Here.
Mr. Mania.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Mr. Roman.
Here.
Mr. Nacastro.
Here. Mr. Amianda, would you approve the minutes from the September 4, 2018 workshop and public meeting, please?
I make a motion for approval of minutes of previous meetings on September 4, 2018, work session and public meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public? Close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante.
Yes.
Mrs. Labow.
Yes.
Mr. Mania.
Abstain.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Mr. Roman.
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro.
Yes. We have 21 pieces of correspondence. Does anyone have anything on those? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is first reading for ordinance number 24-2018, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive, amending ordinance number 26-17, which established salaries for the mayor, council, department heads, supervisory personnel, employees of the Township Clerk's Office. Mr. Ferrante.
Just a correction, you originally stated this was for first reading, it's for second reading.
Oh, I'm on second reading?
It's public hearing.
Yeah.
Second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry, backwards. Okay. So open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 24-2018. Does anyone from the public wish to be heard on this? Seeing none, close to the public. Mr. Ferrante?
I make a motion for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 24-2018.
Second.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante.
Yes.
Mrs. Labow.
Yes.
Mr. Mania.
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 24-2018 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. Thank you for that, Mr. Roman, clearing that up. Now we have, next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 25-2018, with a second reading on October 2nd, 2018. An ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 338, Solid Waste Disposal, Recyclable Material, Articles 3, Dumpsters, Section 338-16, Roll-off dumpsters or containers of the Township Code to include private property. Ms. Leybow?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ordinance number 25-2018 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting will be held on October 2nd, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Thank you. Any council discussion? Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Leybow?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 26-2018, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 302, Property Maintenance, Article 2, General Provisions, Section 302-40, Exterior Maintenance of the Township Code to include car shelters. Mr. Mania.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ordinance number 26-2018 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting will be held on October 2nd, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading, and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Anyone from council, any comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Leybow?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Anyone wish to move? We have 12 consent resolutions. Anyone wish to move anything non-consent? Seeing none, Mr. Stewart, would you please move consent resolutions 1 through 12?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that consent resolutions 1 through 12 be passed for adoption and final passage.
Second.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Anyone from council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Leybow?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Mr. Roman, would you please move the bill list?
I'd like to move for approval of the bill list.
Second?
Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Anyone from council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrante?
Yes.
Mrs. Leybow?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Administrative reports.
Nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Old business, does anyone have any old business? Does anyone have any new business? Seeing none, do we have any legal matters?
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Amianda, anything from the Board of Ed or seniors?
Yes, Mr. President. Mount Olive Board of Education held its work session meeting on September 17, 2018, 6:30 p.m. at the administration building. Public attendance was good to show that the people were interested to know what is going on in the school district. Ms. Breton, acting superintendent, gave a positive progress report. The district will continue to provide all of our students with equity and success. Ms. Breton will remain in charge until Robert R. Zawick, the new superintendent, begins his tenure Wednesday, October 10, 2018. The acting superintendent is responsible for 6 schools with a total of 4,400 students. There will be new report cards. Another improvement this school year will be a new curriculum which will integrate technology, science, engineering, and learning. Acting superintendent reported that Mold had temporarily closed of middle school. Other schools are being checked. She asked the parents not to panic as the district is doing what needs to be done to alleviate the mold. If there is anything to blame, blame the blistering heat and humidity, she said. The board took action on personnel, curriculum, business, and administrative items. The board approved superintendent of schools and 9 board members to attend the annual New Jersey School Boards Association in Atlantic City, October 22nd to October 25, 2018. Paid expenses per person to include registration, hotel accommodation, meals, and incident expenses, and incidental expenses not to exceed 1,000 per person. And that's the end of the school report.
Thank you, Mr. Amianda. Mr. Ferranti, anything on environmental, lake, or library?
Nothing.
Mr. Stewart, anything on economic or community action panel?
Economic Development Committee meets this Thursday, and Community Action Panel next week.
Thank you. Ms. Lebow, anything on open space, Board of Health, or stigma?
No, Board of Health meets tomorrow night, so.
Thank you. Mr. Maney, anything on legislative or planning?
Planning, I attended the meeting, but I couldn't participate. It was an appeal to the Board of Adjustment, so as a council member, I could not participate.
Thank you. Mr. Roman, on anything on recreation or pride?
Mr.
Nothing to
President,
report.
Yes, Mr.
I
Amianda.
forgot to say something about the senior citizen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mount Olive Senior Citizen Club held its social meeting today, November 18, 2018, at 11:30 a.m. There were no business reports, only trip reports. A senior citizen meeting scheduled for November 6th is moved to November 13, 2018, because November 6th conflicts with election day on that day. Thank you. That's the end.
Thank you, Mr. Amianda. Mr. Roman, you said nothing, correct?
Correct.
Anyone from the public wish to be heard at this time? Seeing none, close to the public. Any council comments? Mr. Amianda?
None.
Mr. Ferrante?
Nothing.
Ms. Lebow?
I just want to remind everybody that the Chili Fest is this Saturday.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, this Saturday, 5 o'clock, Turkey Brook Park. Should be a great time.
Mr. Mania?
Just want to thank the administration for the quick results and the problem at the detention basin at Turkey Brook. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Roman?
Nothing.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone.